Hey team, today on the Celebrity Couch we have...
Damian Reid, man of many things, but probably most recognisable as the MC at Armageddon.
So Damian, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Oh gosh, great question. I was born at an early age. Look, basically my day job, I work in IT to pay the bills, but about over 10 years ago now, I got an email in a account that I have for a corporate theatre company that I was running at the time from a chap named Bill, who claimed to be the guy who runs the Armageddon Expos. So I politely responded thinking it was a prank from one of my mates, and it turns out it was the real guy. Bill was looking for someone to MC in Wellington. Apparently, he was getting too busy. I mean, the convention had been growing. This was when it was still at the old TSB Centre, or arena, what do they call it, down on the waterfront. So I rocked up, and the rest, as they say, is history. My first ever panel was Twilight.
Who was at the panel?
It was the lady who played the wife of the leader of the werewolves and one of the young werewolves. I couldn't tell you their names now. I am very, very bad with names. I apologize in advance. I will be halfway through a story and I'll go, that guy or that lady, because I forget names really. I mean, I meet a lot of people, so it starts to blur after a while.
So I'm going to give you a couple of categories for celebrities. Basically, tell us your story. So, who's been the funniest celebrity?
I would have to say the funniest celebrities for me were actually Mike Minogue and Karen O'Leary. Anyone who was at Wellington Armageddon this year saw me have a moment or three where the two of them they broke me. It was so funny. Bradley Walsh, who is the guy who hosts The Chase, he's also in the new Doctor Who series. I love it. He has these moments where he loses it, and is actually, if you go on YouTube, type in Bradley Walsh loses his cool, you'll see multiple times where he's lost it, and that happened to me for the first time ever. 10 years experience at Armageddon conventions, and I've had moments where I've had a good laugh with a guest, but I've never broke. They had me curled up in the fetal position on the couch, tears streaming out of my eyes because of who they are. So I've watched What We Do in the Shadows. I've watched Wellington Paranormal. Love them both. Second season's dropping, so I'm looking forward to that. I had no idea, though, that the characters that they play, basically just them in real life, but a little bit amplified. Like a fantastic professional wrestling persona. The best ones are based on the actual personality of the character or the person, and then they're just made larger than life. It's not a huge leap, because I spoke to them afterwards, but the way they just stayed in character, they were very, very quick in some of their answers, and what they were saying, I've always found interviews where the person stays in the character challenging. I've always thought that those are the ones that you tend to have to do a bit more work on, because quite often they'll get asked questions as the actor, not as the character. So we had one particular person who wanted to just do his comedy shtick as his character, was not interested in answering any questions about him, the person, or him, the actor, just wanted to, and that was very, very hard, but I let him, you figure out how to do it. So when I found out that Karen and Mike were going to be in character, I thought, oh yeah, they'll be in character for a bit, then they'll break. When they first turned up, I said, okay, you guys are going to answer do the first half in character, then the last half, as yourselves. No. They didn't break me in Tauranga or Christchurch after that, but they got close. So they would be the funniest moments I've had on stage, the funniest actors I've had on stage, just because of the scenario.
What about awesomest celebrity?
Is awesomest a word?
Awesomeness from Armageddon is
Awesomeness. Thank you very much.
Apologies.
Trademark pending. Most awesome. You can't pick one, because there's ones for different reasons. Lance Hendrickson sticks out for me because I grew up watching a lot of his stuff. I'm a huge Lance Hendrickson fan. But when we got there and we started the panel, 20 minutes in, he turned around and said, we might as well just finish this, because the audience were asking the same three questions. would you do Millennium again? Why did they cancel Millennium? And what's it like doing Alien? That was pretty much the three. Oh, we had one kid that wanted to sing him Rammstein, but we stopped that. But he could see it wasn't going anywhere. And I've been looking forward to this panel for quite a while because it's Lance freaking Hendrickson. If you don't know who he is, Google him and shame on you. So I got him to sit. I said, no, come sit down on the couch beside me. And we just basically talked for the next 40 minutes. I asked him about his charity work. I asked him about how he got into the industry because he was a set painter. He painted sets because he's an amazing artist. I'd recently purchased his graphic novel, so he talked about that, To Hell You Ride. The fact that he couldn't read until he was in his later life, 30s and 40s. His wife used to read the sides. He'd memorize them and go into his auditions. So he's a huge advocate for adult literacy. That to me was just an awesome experience. But yeah, it's different for different things. I had an awesome time with just recently with Yuri Lowenthal, Tara Platt, and William Sayers. They're all did the voices on the PS4 Marvel Spider-Man game. I loved the game. I loved the characters. William Sayers' portrayal of Dr. Ock is the first time I've ever, in all the comics I've read, all the different types of genres he's been in, whether it's real life action film, cartoon, whatever, I've never really felt any empathy for Dr. Ock. William Sayers brought a level of empathy towards a character that I'd never had before. It was more a movie. I wrote a review on it on witchdoctor.co.nz, we plug. And the title is it a game or is it a movie? The storyline brings you in so much. And then you get to meet those people. We went on a Mirai visit with them, and part of that group also included Amber Nash, who voices Pam Poovey on Archer. Sorry, I'm a bit of a Billy Connolly when it comes to telling stories. I'll get back to the point eventually. And
we only have an hour.
Okay, there is these big Māori warriors who'd been putting on a performance of Māori culture for them, and so they're all buzzing out. Amber's getting up and getting pictures with them. All the guys getting pictures with the Māori warriors, and I sort of walked over to the chief, the guy who's playing the chief, and his sister was freaking out about some of the young guys that we had from Teen Wolf and Shadowhunters because young boys, they're very, very good looking guys. Curse them with their youth, their talent, and their looks, but the guys were kind of oh yeah, that's not really their thing. And I said, oh, bro, do you like Archer? He goes, oh, I love Archer. I said, that lady you just had a selfie with. Oh, don't tell me she wrote it. No, she actually voices Pam Poovey. And he was like, oh my God. So he rushed over and got a picture of her. And then it was like, oh, you play PS4, eh? Yes. Yeah. I said, you play Spider-Man. He said, oh, that's my jam. Literally, he said, that's my jam. I'm not making this up. And that's when I introduced him to Will Sayers, Yuri, and Tara, who obviously Will played Doc Ock. Yuri was Spider-Man, and Tara, funnily enough, who's married to Yuri, played Yuri Watanabe. So yeah, he spent the entire time in the recording studio talking to himself. It was very egotistical. No, Yuri's not like that at all. And this kid this guy, and he's in his mid-20s, big fella, turned into a 5-year-old kid. An absolute ball. So yeah, it's that sort of thing. Awesomeness moments. Not so much people, because they're all pretty awesome. Otherwise, they wouldn't be doing what they do.
So what about most weirdest celebrity you've had?
I never met him, and I can't remember his name. He was a graphic. I think it was one. He was a voice actor. I think one of the voice actors. He turned up for the first day, and then disappeared. He just decided to walk away. I think I met him once, and he was a repeat guest. And when I first met him, he was fine. Then he'd had an awakening or something, a spiritual awareness, or he'd gone through I don't know. But next thing I know, he was very, very spiritual, and that's not a bad thing. But he was just odd. I understand now how people end up in cults, and he just disappeared. I have no idea to this day what happened. All I know is that I got a notice the next day that one of my panels was going to be a body light. That's probably the weirdest person I've ever met. Everyone else, they're just like us. They're just in a weird situation. Take Jeremy Renner. Normal, nice guy. A lot shorter than I thought. I'm bigger than Hawkeye. But, he lives in an environment where he can't go to the store in his hometown. He can't go to a restaurant in LA without being swamped. So he turns up and he's got security set up. He's got his own green room because that's what his agent and his management team were expecting. He walks through Wellington Arena, coming down to the photo booth to have a quick chat to me before our panel that day. And he's looking around, you could tell, he visibly relaxes because whilst there's a lot of people there and they see him and they're like, oh, wow, that's Jeremy Renner, that's Hawkeye. They're respectful and they give them their distance. So, yeah, there's not really weird people. They're just, they do a job and the hysteria that's been built up, and not so much here in New Zealand or Australia, but overseas, France and Japan and America, for example, the hysteria that gets created, it makes it a weird situation. Until Wellington, New Zealand.
And lastly, what about the most boring celebrity?
He is sitting on your couch right now. See, again, and this is going to sound really cheesy, but there's no such thing as a boring celebrity or a boring person. We all have our own stories to tell. We all have our own unique way of looking at life, and we've all got opinions on things that can be different, can shock you. I will say that what does make it boring, for me more so than anyone else, is two things. When you can tell that either the person isn't a fan of doing conventions and is there because of either a contractual obligation, or, and that's less the case, there's very rarely someone here is in New Zealand for a contractual obligation, or they've gone up because it's just happened to fit in with something else. And it doesn't happen very often, but you can tell they've kind of come because it's a free holiday in New Zealand. They get to cruise around our beautiful country. So this is a bit of an imposition. So they just are flat when they give answers. And the answers are usually in the exact same tone, the exact same structure. It's very boring. And the other one is the person that does the same panel verbatim almost every time, to the point where I can actually do their panel for them now.
I know there's probably a few, but who springs to mind on a celebrity that you would like to meet?
I would love to meet Catherine Tate. She was due to come and then she had to cancel. Catherine Tate, not just because she was in Doctor Who, and I'm a huge Whovian, and so is Bill, who runs Armageddon. He loves Doctor Who like me. In fact, probably even a little bit more. But because of her comedy work and her Shakespeare work. She, again, another famous, amazing actor. Actress, whatever the pronoun is they're using for actors and actresses these times. Who else would I really, really like to meet? Kate Beckinsale, but for a completely different reason. Alyssa Milano. I'd love to meet Alyssa Milano. Rose McGowan. I would love to sit down on a couch with Rose McGowan and just listen to her tell her stories. I think she is an inspiring woman to have suffered what she suffered and then come through it and still stand up and fight and produce amazing work.
So, stepping away from Armageddon for a little bit, what can you tell us about your current show, Extremities?
Right, so Extremities. It's a show I'm directing. So I've directed 3 plays now in my life. The first one was a play called Misconceptions, originally called Sperm Wars, which is a black comedy about infertility. The second one I actually wrote, a stage adaptation of The Vicar of Dibley. Directed that. It was sold out before we opened. The third one in my trilogy, because I'm directing 3 in Wellington and that's it, is called Extremities, which again I acted in 18 years ago. It's a story about a woman who was attacked in her home by a stranger. She manages to overpower him and then has to figure out what she's going to do with this guy now that she's got him. It touches on victim blaming. It touches on how women who report sexual assault aren't believed, where the onus of proof is on them, not on proving that it didn't occur. They had to prove that it did. And what happens when a victim is given the power over their attacker. Because as we know, sexual assault is not about sex, it's about power. And about probably a range of other things, but this is the theme of this play. And the thing that saddens me about this is 18 years on, and it's still as relevant today as it was then. I've done a few things. Originally, it was written in 1978 when the author, Master of Ceremonies, was in an airport, bumped into a woman that he calls Mary, and she tells him a story of her assault and he writes and he writes her story, but in a slightly different way. And it's very New York centric, because it was set in upstate New York, and it cast the male antagonist as a Latina. I have removed all reference to any actual place. So this could be anywhere in any Western society. Canada, Australia, New Zealand. It could be any group of people floating together. Okay, so I've got a couple of different accents in there, just because no one's put an accent on. They're just using their normal voices. And I took out the Latino male, and I made him, well, partly because the person who cast is just a regular looking Caucasian male. I made him a regular Caucasian male. Because of two things. The person that is going to attack you isn't always going to be, this minority that the Republicans in America like you to think it's going to be. It's going to be quite often the person that you don't expect.
So I saw that you brought some stuff along.
I did. So I got some presents for you, or you can do them giveaways. These are just a couple of the comics that Bill actually writes with his company, Beyond Reality Media. It's the Pre-Apocalypse, Now Apocalypse, and Warden. Warden is probably one of the coolest superhero stories I've ever read. These are, there's heaps of them out there, but go to Beyond Reality Media and you'll be able to get them. But those are for you. Thank you very much for having me.
Yes,
and I just wanted to show this. This is one of my prized possessions. This is, I bought this for charity, but this here is the actual script that Paul McQuillian had from the 100th episode of Stargate Atlantis, signed by him. Now, I've got some friends who have bought similar things, and they've got all the entire cast to sign them. And I had the opportunity because I've obviously, Joe was there, Jason Momoa's been there, Tara Rothery's been around. We've had a lot of Stargate people, David Nichol. But this was his script. So I've just kind of got his signature on it for me. And I was a huge, big fan. Actually, all the favourite people on those shows, my favourite people always ended up getting killed. Tara Rothery, Paul McQuillian. If you're a doctor on Stargate.
But yeah, sadly, that's all the time we have for today with Damian Reid. But if you'd like to see a second video, which we could be sitting here for days and just rattle each other's brains. It's great. Yeah. But if you want to see it, it is hashtag
second interview, Damian Reid MC. And if you want to follow me on on Instagram, I'm really bad at it. I have a flurry of activity around the Armageddon conventions, but I'm trying to be better at it. Damian Reid MC stands for Master of Ceremonies and Marriage Celebrant. So, and if you are looking to get married, again, just find me, Damian Reid MC @gmail.com is my email address. And yeah, yes. Now remember, like this video, share this video, subscribe to this man's channel. He's good. He has entertaining interviews. And if you don't like it, don't tell anyone.
Now, if you want to see me take Season 3 on the road, potentially in Auckland, where I have some awesome contacts, then jump over to our Facebook page, www.facebook.com/entertaininginterviews. And around that page, you will see a link on how you can support this channel to be able to make that happen. Hopefully you enjoyed Entertaining Interview Season 2. We had a whole ball of fun filming it. Once again, huge shout out to Tony McDonald from Plastic Groove for the venue and also for the audio engineering, one of our major sponsors, and our other major sponsor, Tim Simpson from Nitro Film, for sponsoring us with the gear. So, like I said, jump over to our Facebook page, check it out, jump in and help us out, take Season 3 on the road, and hopefully we'll be seeing you guys again very soon.